Let's talk about the engine of the modern web, JavaScript. It's the magic behind the curtain, the language that makes everything happen, from that add to cart button you just clicked to the endless scroll on your social feed. We're going to break down how it all works, what it's made of, and how it turns a boring, static page into a living, breathing experience.
Think about your day online. You're constantly interacting with websites, right? You're adding stuff to a shopping cart, you're playing a video, you're liking a friend's post. These aren't just digital flyers anymore. They're full-blown experiences that respond to your every move.
But have you ever stopped to wonder how that actually works? How does a simple click on a button set off this whole chain reaction? Well, the answer lies in three core technologies that all work together, but one of them is the real star of the show when it comes to making things happen.
So let's start with the absolute fundamentals. What are websites even made of? You'll see it's actually a surprisingly small team of core technologies. Believe it or not, pretty much the entire interactive web is built on just three foundational technologies. That's it, just three.
The easiest way to think about it is like building a house. HTML is the raw structure, the walls, the doors, the windows. It's the content, like the text and the buttons. Then you have CSS, which is like the interior designer. It adds all the paint, the furniture, the style that makes it look good. And then there's JavaScript. That's the electricity, the plumbing, the brains of the operation that makes everything actually work.
So what does it actually mean to write JavaScript?
You don't have to be some kind of tech genius. It really just comes down to learning how to give really clear, really precise instructions. At its heart, that's all coding is. You're just writing a to-do list for a computer, and the computer is a very literal-minded employee that will follow your scripts to the letter. You're the director, and it's the actor. For example, take a look at this tiny line of code. If you were to type alert hello into a special part of your browser and hit enter, boom, a little pop-up would appear on your screen with the word hello. Just like that, you gave the computer an instruction and it followed it. That's coding.
Now, just like any language, programming languages have grammar. We call it syntax. But here's the crucial difference. In a conversation, you can bend the rules of grammar and people will probably still get what you mean. With a computer, nope. You have to be precise. Every single bracket, every quote, every semicolon has to be in exactly the right place, or the computer just won't understand you.
Okay, so once you get the hang of that syntax, you can start playing with the fundamental building blocks of JavaScript to create way more complex instructions. So let's open up the Coder's Toolkit.
First up, we have variables. The best way to think of these is just as labeled containers, like boxes. You can put a piece of information inside, say a username or a price, and then you can use that label to get the information back later. It's how your code can remember things.
Next, we've got functions. Now, if you find yourself writing the same set of instructions over and over again, let's say to calculate sales tax, you can bundle all those steps together into a function. It's like a saved recipe. Then, whenever you need to calculate tax, you just call that function instead of writing it all out again. It's a massive tool for staying efficient and organized.
And finally, we have objects. Objects are all about keeping related information together. For example, you could make a product object that holds its name, its price, and even a function to calculate the shipping cost, all in one neat little package. It just keeps your code tidy and makes sense of the world.
So we have our building blocks, our instructions, our variables, our functions. But how do we connect all this abstract code to the actual physical things we see on a web page? Well, this is where the magic link comes into play.
The key is something called the DOM, which stands for Document Object Model. It sounds super technical, but the idea is simple. When your browser loads a web page, it creates this invisible map of the page's structure. The DOM is that map, and it's what allows JavaScript to find, read, and change every single element on the page. It's the bridge between our code and the real page.
So let's look at a real-world example. Using the DOM, your JavaScript code can find a specific element, like a subscribe button. Then it can just sit there and listen for an event, like you clicking on it. The moment that event happens, it triggers a function that can modify the button, maybe change its text to subscribed. This simple little process, that's the foundation of everything interactive on the web.
All right, now that we understand the basic concepts and how they actually connect to a web page, let's see how these simple little building blocks can be stacked together to create the really sophisticated features we use every day.
Take an Amazon shopping cart. At first, it seems really complicated, but when you look under the hood, it's just built from the same concepts we just talked about. It uses variables to store the prices of items, it uses some simple math to calculate the total, and it uses the DOM to update what you see on the screen in real time. That's it. Complex features are really just a clever combination of simple building blocks.
And that right there is the most important idea to take away from our little journey today. The most impressive websites and apps aren't the result of some dark magic. No, they're built from the same fundamental, understandable pieces we've just looked at, just combined in really creative and intelligent ways. You know, every interactive website, from the simplest little game to the biggest social network, started with just a single line of code. We've just seen what the building blocks are, so the only real question left is, what will you build with them?